Hello everybody, my name is Beth. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a wrap up of all the books I've read up until today. So this is June I don't know. Let's see. 20th, because yesterday was 19th. It was Juneteenth. Okay. So now these may be a little bit out of order, and I may not have a couple of them because I didn't write down dates. And I didn't go back and check, but I'm not sure quite how many I have read total, but I do have some that I'm going to have to insert as the Kindle books go, and I will be having to check my notebook. So I have that with me. As I might have showed you before, this is my notebook, and I just write down what I'm reading, what I've read. So we're going to start with January. January was a pretty good reading month. So the first book I read in one day. It was The Labors of Hercules. I read this on the first New Year's Day, and I gave it 4 stars. And it's just about Hercule Poirot, and he's solving 12 tests. He's beginning a series of 12 tests. I'm not going to tell you everything about all these books because we would be here way too long. Okay, the next book I completed, or the next book in my stack, I tried to put them in order, but I also have to make sure that I'm adding in my ebooks, my Kindle books and stuff, was Cape Refuge, Book 1 by Terry Blackstock. This was the first time I had read Terry Blackstock, so she was a new to me author, and I really enjoyed it. It was 4 stars. It was the beginning of a series, and 2 sisters are trying to solve the murder of their parents. I don't really know that they're trying to solve it, but they're also trying to continue running their parents' it was a home that they had for people that were getting out of prison, and they were giving them a second chance. So very good book. I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the second one too, and we'll get to that later. Okay, the next one was a reread for me. It's Love Comes Softly by Jeanette Oke. This is just a little cozy for me. It's a love story. Okay, the next one is Black Cake. I'm sorry, no, it's not. The next one is a Kindle read. It was Inside Out and Back Again. I thought I had the book. I might have checked it out of my library. But I gave it 4 stars. Gotta slow down. I gave this 5 stars. I love this story. All right, now Inside Out and Back Again. I gave it 4 stars, and it's about a refugee, and she's coming to, her and her brother and her mom come to America after their dad he's like missing in action. He's like missing. I don't know if he's missing in action. But it is a middle grade book, and it is written in verse. 4 stars for that. All right, now Black Cake. This is about, I gave it 5 stars, and I finished it on the 14th. This is about a brother and a sister, and their mom records a message for them and tells about her life before, and they have a surprise. So then I finished, to the best of my ability of knowing, Great Expectations. And this is a classic, and if you don't know what this is about, Pip is he gets a benefactor who pays his way through schooling, and yeah, I just love this. I read it in high school, fell in love with this book. It is still 5-star read for me. It's still very close to my heart. The next book was All the Light We Cannot See. The main character in here is a little girl, and she's blind. I think she's Marie Lore is her name, and she's blind. I can't remember how old she is, like 12. Anyway, they flee from Paris, her and her father, and then she's carrying something very valuable, and this was an excellent read. 4 stars. Probably if I were to go back and read it, it would be 5 stars. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that book. And then I finished my Bible study that next day, and it was Genesis, the Foundations of Grace. This is Genesis 1 through 11, chapters 1 through 11, I think. Yes, and it was very informative. I really enjoyed this, and I gave it 5 stars. Phantoms by Dean Koontz. 5 stars. An incredible read. Incredible. And I did do a wrap-up, I believe, in January. Okay, and then I read Romeo and Juliet. It was my last read in January. And 4 stars. And most everybody knows what Romeo and Juliet are about. So then we move on into February. It was an okay reading month. And by this time, about halfway through, I think it was, I started participating in the Around the World in 80 Days. I think that's, yeah. I don't remember the exact dates for that. Oh, January 11th. So about January 11th, I started participating in that. So my first book that I finished in February was Death on the Nile, another Agatha Christie. Poirot is taking a trip on the Nile, and of course he solves a case. 5 stars, of course. 5 stars. And then I finished Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. A man bets his friends that he can make it around the world in 80 days or less. Okay, on the 8th, I was also, last year and this year, was in February was the last of it, was the Sarah J. Maas read-along that Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads and Christina from Christina's Chapters were doing. So I finally broke down and read House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. 5 stars. 5 stars. I love this. And I start annotating sometimes, and then I just stop because I get into the... I finished Danger in the Shadows. Yes. This is the O'Malley series. This is the prequel. I gave this 4 stars. And this is about a woman who's in the witness protection. Of course, this is a little romance mystery. And then I reread Black Coffee by Agatha Christie. This is Poirot, of course. So it's been a little bit since she sent it to me, but yes. And then I finished a very, very wonderful book that was the first in a series that had me crying and mad all at the same time. Francine Rivers, A Voice in the Wind. Of course, it got 5 stars. And if you haven't read this, this is about when the Romans took over Israel, and they took the Jews and made slaves of them, and Hadassah is one of those slaves, and she becomes a house slave for a family. And hope I didn't just give something away. It is the okay, what it is, the selected poems of Mr. Tagore. I don't know how you say his first name. But these I didn't even give a rating for. They were very interesting, and I but I didn't even put my month down, so I don't know what happened to that. So I had to finish that pretty much at the end of, because I couldn't go on to my other books before. And I have some in, I couldn't go on to my next Kindle book, and I finished it on the 2nd of February. But anyway, then this is my last book in February, Babel. Some people say Babel. I think the audiobook pronounces it Babel, by R.F. Kuang. I enjoyed this so much. This is about the Robin Swift. He's renamed when the professor comes in and gets him. He's orphaned by cholera in Canton. Professor Lovell comes and gets him. He's the only one pretty much that survives. He's the only one in his household that survives. And he is raised for the intention of going to Oxford University, the prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. And it's also known for its silver working. So, I mean, I really enjoyed this. And again, I stopped tabbing toward the end because I was so involved in what was going on. I enjoyed that, and I gave it 5 stars. It's gotten mixed reviews. Some people have liked it, some people have not. Okay, so now we're going into March. This is 17 minutes long, and I'm just now into March, so I'll stop trying to talk about so much of this. I read a little cozy mystery on Kindle. It was called Auntie Lee's Delights, and this is about Auntie Lee, and she, I think this was my Singapore read for Around the World in 80 Days. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm interested enough to continue this series. Anyway, Auntie Lee runs a little cafe, I guess is what you would call it, and she also wants to solve mysteries, and she does. So the next book I'm going to show you, I don't know when I finished it, but I know my sister and I were reading it, but I'm going to just put it in this here, and it's 11/22/63. Oh my goodness, this was so good. And this is about time travel. A man goes back in time to try to stop the JFK assassination, and this actually has some recurring characters from other books, and I was tickled to death when I found that out. And I didn't find it out until I was reading it and came upon them, and it was actually characters that I knew, so it was from a book that I know. And anyway, there's so much more than just going back to stop the Kennedy assassination. And so it's also got some romance in it. And anyway, 5 stars. I really did love this one. Then on the 8th, I read another new to me author, and she became, with this one book, probably one of my favorite authors. I mean, I would put her up there beside Simone St. James, but this lady is more, this lady is Christian based. I read The Souls of Lost Lake, and I cannot wait. I have 2 of her books on Kindle. I cannot wait to read another one. This book is so good, and this is about Ren is at a camp, and she helps her father with ministry at this youth camp. But she's also trying to find out about Ava Kuhn's, the story. And in 1930, Ava Kuhn's emerges from the woods as a 13-year-old girl splattered with blood, dragging a logger's axe, and it's said that she killed her family. 5 stars. I loved this book. It was book next, Murder in an Irish Village, and this is a little cozy mystery, and this guy is found in this. It's brothers and sisters, and they have a cafe, and this guy that they have had an issue with, they have been seen arguing, or their brother has, with this gentleman, and he's found dead in their restaurant. And then I think I finished this one close to that one. I'm going to put this one in here. It's at Bertram's Hotel, and this is about Miss Marple, and she goes to visit a place where she used to go as a little girl. It's called Bertram's Hotel, and then she ends up having to solve a mystery. I gave Murder in an Irish Village 4 stars. I gave Agatha Christie 5 stars, which is the Miss Marple one. The next book is the second book of the Cape Refuge series, which was Southern Storm, and the chief of police goes missing, and they don't know if he's eloped or met foul play, so they go looking for him. I gave that one 5 stars. Then, because my friend requested me to read this and she had to pick my book, and this was the one she picked, I read the second book in the Mark of the Lion series, An Echo in the Darkness. 5 stars. I cried. I bawled. But I loved it. And now we move on to April. I guess. So, the first book I finished was The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I had to have another friend or family pick, so my sister picked this one. She's been wanting me to read this one since, I don't know, she said she reads it all the time. I did annotate this. I gave this one 4 stars. It was a quick little read. Alright, then I read Tomorrow. This one is not, I don't share everybody else's opinion about this book. I gave it 3 stars. I still enjoyed parts of it. These 2 friends meet when they're children, and then they reconnect, and they start making video games. And that's about all I can tell you about it. Alright, then the next book I read was a reread, and it was Brother Odd by Dean Koontz, and I gave it 5 stars. And this is just about Odd Thomas, and he goes to this is the one where he goes to he's at St. Bartholomew's Abbey with the monks, and he has to save the children that are staying there at the school they have. They are the children that their parents can't take care of them, or they don't want them. So, the next one that I read was in this book, and it was the ABC Murders, and I gave it 5 stars, and it's just about it's Hercule Poirot, and he has to solve these murders that are being committed based on the ABC. I didn't explain that well. This man or this woman, the killer, the murders being committed are like, their names they start with A, they're in a place that start with A. Oh, okay, you get it. Okay, the next one that I read was The Resting Place by Camilla Stein, 5 stars. And this is about a girl who she saw her grandmother's killer, but she has face blindness, so she cannot identify the killer, but the killer doesn't know that, and so she's on the run. I mean, she's you know, she thinks the killer's going to come after her. Then there, 5 stars if I didn't tell you that. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. And I found this, I believe it was on Chantel's channel. I think she either got it in or had read it. And this book was so good. I gave it 5 stars and I cried. Connor has the same dream every night ever since his mother first fell ill, ever since she started the treatments that don't quite seem to be working. But tonight is different. Tonight when he wakes, there's a visitor at his window. It's ancient, elemental, a force of nature, and it wants the most dangerous thing of all from Connor. It wants the truth. It was good. And then the last book I read for April, I guess, is the last book. So the last one in the stack, so we're going to say it was the last one, was The Collective. And this is about a woman whose daughter is murdered, and the murderer, so to speak, gets away with it, and she's not happy about it. So I gave this 4 stars. All right, moving on to May. I didn't read that. First book I read was What Lies in the Woods. This is about a girl who gets stabbed. These 3 friends they play in the woods all the time. This girl gets stabbed because there's a serial killer out, and they identify him, but they lie about it. So I gave this 5 stars because I enjoyed it. It was good. Then I read The Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James. And I've talked about this a couple of times. This is about Sarah Piper, and she goes to interview for a job with Alistair Gellis, and he is a ghost hunter, so to speak. And it's set in the 1920s in England. And he has an assistant, but he needs one temporarily, because his assistant is on another assignment, and he also needs the assistant to be a woman because the ghost that he wants to go get in contact with will not speak to men. So therefore he hires Sarah. I read The Only Survivors by Megan Moran. The Soulmate by Sally Hempworth. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read the best book I've ever read, Open Water. One of the best books I've ever read. This book is so beautifully written. It's 5 stars. It's about 2 people who find each other. They find the love of their life, but there are complications such as another person, which happens to be the one's best friend and the other one's significant other at that moment. There are other things going on in the book besides just the romance. And then I finished the month with Anne of Green Gables. And I gave this, and of course, most everybody knows what Anne of Green Gables is about. Anne is an orphan, and she goes to live with the Cuthberts, but they really wanted a boy, but then they fall in love with her and keep her. And I gave this 5 stars. All right, and now we're going to move on to June's. And I will probably do a wrap up of just the ones I haven't read for June at the end of June. Okay. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Love this book. 5 stars. it's about a literary agent, and she is called a cutthroat literary agent, but she loves her little sister, and her little sister wants her to go on vacation with her, and so she does, and she runs into Charlie Lastra, who is a what she calls a brooding editor, and he rejected one of her clients' books. So then I read All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This is about a mother whose child goes missing in the middle of the night while her and her husband are asleep in their bedroom, and she cannot sleep unless she just blacks out or just catnaps, because she's determined to find her son. Oh, I gave that one 4 stars. Then I read A Caribbean Mystery by Agatha Christie, which is 5 stars, and this is about Miss Marple, who is enjoying the Caribbean sunshine, and she's listening to an old soldier tell a story, and he's about to show her a picture of a murderer, and gets interrupted, and then he can't show her the picture. Then I read The Wilder Women, and it's about 2 sisters who are trying to find their mother, who's been gone for a while. I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this, and the ending was just beautiful. Cypress by Agatha Christie. I read a lot of Agatha Christie this month. I gave it 5 stars. Eleanor Carlisle is standing trial for the murder of Mary Gerard and the evidence is stacked against her, but Poirot is all that stands between Eleanor and a conviction. 5 stars. Murder in Mesopotamia. I told you there's a lot of them. 5 stars, and this is about the murder of Amy Letherin. And no, I'm sorry, not Amy Letherin. This is about Dr. Leidner's wife, Louise Leidner, the death of her. And Hercule Poirot is passing through. He'd been somewhere else, and then he stops to solve the murder. 5 stars. I enjoyed that one. Then I finished Jane Eyre. 5 stars. And most everybody knows what Jane Eyre is about. It's about a governess who goes and moves into Thornfield Hall to be a governess. Maybe I said that. And falls in love with Mr. Rochester, and some things happen, and then she runs away, and Odd Hours was next. It was the next in the series. 5 stars, and this is about Odd Thomas meeting up with Annabelle. It's such a good book. They do it with mirrors, which is a Miss Marple, and she goes to visit her friend in Stony Gates, which is a rehabilitation center for delinquents, and somebody shoots at the administrator. He's not injured, but a mysterious visitor is less fortunate and is shot dead. So she has to figure out. I'm going to say I read this version of Moby Dick. 4 stars. No. Cards on the Table. 5 stars. This is about Mr. Now I can't remember his name. Mr. Shaitana has a party, a dinner, invites 4 sleuths and 4 possible murderers, and somebody dies. Then I finished Things We Do in the Dark. 3 stars. This is one of the wrapped books. I also read Becoming this month, and this was one of my 23 books of 23. 5 stars. Awesome book. Loved it. Amazing. Another wrapped book was The #1 Ladies Detective Agency. This is set in Africa. And this is about Precious Ramatswe. And she has a detective agency and she solves cases. Obviously, that's what detectives do, right? All right. I gave that one 3 stars, but I'm interested in continuing the series. Then I read my next wrapped book, The Missing Years, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. I was really leery in the beginning. Gave it 4 stars. This is about 2 sisters. One sister, Elsa, has inherited half a house. Her dad has inherited the other half, or owns the other half, and the sister's mother just died, and they are trying to reconnect, and then they go to stay at the house in Scotland and try to solve. I don't know that they're trying to solve, but she's kind of trying to find out what happened to her dad. Elsie is. It's good. 4 stars. All right, that is it. I'm not sure how many books that is because I didn't count my Kindle books. 54. So 54 books so far this year. I'm way behind. My goal was 200 this year. So anyway, I'm glad I could bring you to a different spot with a little bit different background. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And I hope that it wasn't too rushed. But I tried to get at least a little bit of each book in there so that you know what it was about. Anyway, thank you for watching if you made it this far. And if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, please click that subscribe button down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.